Welcome to Travers PC's web seminar on what's new in TPC Desktop 2018 Release 2. We're going to start by taking a look at some of the geodetics and GIS projection files improvements in this release of Travers PC. So I've loaded a file here. If we go to the Tasks Manager, come down here, we can see that it is set on a local survey grid. We can also edit the survey information from here under Survey Information in the Tasks Manager, or we can go to the Tools menu and choose Survey Information. Both places bring me to the same place. If we come to the Coordinate Reference System tab, you'll see that it is set to the local coordinate reference system, just a local coordinate grid. I'm going to cancel out of this. Let's open a Travers here. I'm going to open this Enter Bearings Travers. Notice that this is set to true bearing, geodetic distance, and feet. Now, if I come down here and try to enter a new bearing, Travers PC now gives me a message saying that the distance type and coordinate reference system do not match. And because of that, Travers PC is not able to calculate this point because of that. If we take a look at the underlying raw data of these other points here, you'll see that these both have bearings and distances on them. But if we go back to the inverse data, we can see that nothing is calculated as far as the coordinates, and that's because this is set to true bearing geodetic distance, but Travers PC has no way to calculate that. So that's one of the new things. We'll let you know about that mismatch there if you try to do something like this. Now let's go back to the survey information. Back to the Coordinate Reference System tab. Now you'll notice some new options up here. Browse Default Folder, Browse. Okay, Browse Default Folder will take you to whatever folder is set as your default Coordinate Reference System folder. And then you can browse to subfolders or whatever. So if I were to go in here and open one of these folders and select one of these files, now what this browse button does, it takes you actually to the last folder where you selected a survey from, a projection or a coordinate reference system from. So browse default folder goes to the default folder, browse goes to the last folder where you loaded a file from. And you'll notice now that we're now seeing both PRJ files and CRS files. So we now support PRJ files. All right. If those PRJ files have an issue, such as this one, we'll get some sort of a message in the message view telling us that, hey, there's a problem with this PRJ file. We can also, once we've selected a file, we can preview that file to see if it is what we think it is. All right, so if we were looking for an AD83 Harn State Plane, then okay, this looks like it's the right file. All right, so quite a few changes in how this works on selecting your files, as well as the ability to use PRJ files. Now also, from this dialog box, we can hit F1 for help, just like everywhere in Travers PC. Anywhere you are, you can hit F1 for help, and you'll get help for wherever you chose F1 from. So this brings us into the Coordinate Reference System dialog. It talks about all this stuff. If we were to click on PRJ here, well, CRS will give us more information about CRS files. PRJ gives us more information about PRJ files, including we have a link to ESRI's technical support site, because this is their format versus Travers PC's CRS file format. We also have a link to spatialreference.org. and you can find various systems in a lot of formats, including PRJ files. So if I click on this, notice it opens up right here within the help inside Travers PC. And if I go up here and click on list of all references, these are some of the various formats that are available. So then I could click on, say, Mexico Albers equal area conic. Click on this, and then I will have various file types that are available to me, and that includes PRJ files. So if I now click on PRJ file, I can choose Save and browse to the folder I want. Now I can leave it the name that it is, in which case this doesn't help me a heck of a lot. So I might want to rename this to something like Mexico Albers equal area conic. And I'll leave that number 38 in there just because that is what they called it. I choose Save, and now if I close this and go back to Browse and go up to the root folder where I put this, I can scroll down and find that projection in here. So I'll go ahead and double click that, and we have an unsupported keyword in here, but we've got the information on that particular PRJ file, that particular coordinate reference system. Now, if you have a GIS shapefile, if somebody sends you a GIS shapefile with an associated PRJ file, Travers PC will prompt you as to whether you want to load that PRJ file into your coordinate reference system when you import that shapefile. So that's going to happen automatically. It'll prompt you for that. You don't have to say yes, and you could always go back and load that PRJ file separately if you chose to. But Travers PC will prompt you when you import a shapefile with an associated PRJ file. Okay, there have also been a couple of improvements to working with your surfaces in Travers PC. Notice we've got elevations turned on, and we go up to, about 110 feet and down as low as about 30 feet. So now if I go into the surface settings for this surface, we now have an option. This is now available to restrict the elevations to minimum and maximum elevations. So I could say set this to a minimum of, say, 39 feet and a maximum of, let's say 97 feet. All right. I go ahead and let me move this out of the way. I go ahead and apply this, and you'll see now that the elevations of this surface have been restricted to that. Now, if I go ahead and release this then and apply, now we're back to the full surface. Now, if I hit these find buttons, it's going to tell me what my minimums and maximums are that are in that surface right now. So then I could pick and choose, okay, I want to limit this to 30 feet and 110 feet, whatever I choose to. So the find buttons will show you the minimum and maximum that's in that surface, even if it's restricted. So if I were to restrict this and say 29 feet, 29 feet, and apply that, and then I say find, okay, its minimum is at 2907. Is the minimum elevation in it now, because I've restricted it to 29 and greater. Now the other difference here is in the slopes. We've added a 6th setting in slopes, and these are all editable, so you can set it to whatever you choose. These are just the default settings. In percent slope, for the slope calculations. We've added a sixth slope, and this sixth slope is whatever this percent is or greater. All right, so the sixth one here is currently set to 100% or greater slope. Now, if I go ahead and let's include slope shading in the drawing and compute it, and then apply that. So now I'm seeing the slope shading in here. In addition, if I hit summary, I'm going to see now the report on this. So greater than 100% slope, we have this much that is greater than 100% slope. So that's the surfaces. We can now restrict the elevations in the surface, and the slope calculations now do a sixth percentage, and it's that percentage or greater. All right, we've got the same file open. Now I have tagged the topo points traverse just so we can see the topo points in this file. And what we're going to look at is some improvements to the drawing layers. So you can see that some of these point labels are kind of shaded out a bit. That's because of the stacking order of the layers. So let's take a look at the layers. Now, a couple of ways to get here. In case you're not aware of it, I can right-click the background of the drawing and choose layers, or I can go to the Tools menu and choose layers. So now in the Layers dialog box, there is a new option down here to sort layers by drawing order. So you see right now they're just alphanumeric sequence. If I sort layers by drawing order, you notice that they've changed sequence here. Now what you need to know is that the front layer is at the bottom, the back layer is at the top. So right now, the minor contours at the front, major behind that, then leaders, symbols, etc., back to line labels. So you can see our line labels here are behind the contour layers. So if I select line labels and say, now watch the not line labels, point labels, I'm sorry, point labels layer, and say to front, watch those point labels. Now they've popped up in front of those contour lines. If I take that same layer and say to back, now it's behind all of the other layers. So this is new. It makes it easier to see what sequence your layers are in so that you can get them set the way you want. And I could select this one, and I could just start moving it forward if I wanted to. Just move it forward as much as I want, or as little as I want, or to front or back, or forward, backward. So keep in mind that the front is at the bottom and back is at the top. Also, be aware that your layer sequence is stored on your drawing templates. So as you're setting up your drawing templates, if you have a drawing template and you're always having to go in and change the layer sequence, then go ahead and set the layer sequence for that template. Just create a new drawing using that template and come in here and set the sequence any way you choose to. We've also made some improvements in the Drawing Data Manager. So if we go to the Drawing Data Manager in this file that I've loaded here, we now have some new options. I'm going to expand layers, expand the zero layer. So at this point now, I could come in here to the Drawing Data Manager, and even if I don't know where something is in the drawing, I could come in here, say, and right-click this arc, and I now have the ability to convert that to survey from right here. Or a leader, I can convert to survey, or a line, whatever I choose, I can convert that to survey here in the Drawing Data Manager. Now we can also delineate those objects as well. So that comes in handy, so I can find different things within my drawing. All right, so let's see if we can find something here. Let's delineate that now. It's not in view right now. Here, this should probably, there we go. So that object is delineated, makes it easy to find various things within that drawing. We can even delineate entire groups now. So we can delineate a group, we can delineate individual objects from the Drawing Data Manager. Makes it a lot easier to find things in your drawing if you're looking at the Drawing Data Manager. In addition now, in the Drawing Data Manager, we can now change the sequence in here within the Drawing Data Manager. So once again, this is like what we were talking about, the layers. So if a layer is in front, it's at the bottom. Well, same thing in the Drawing Data Manager. So this object is at the very front. If it's if there's something else in that same location, this will be in front of it. Something else on the zero layer. So at this point, I can now drag and drop these within the Drawing Data Manager to change the sequence in the drawing. So if something's on top of something else and you want to move it, you can come to the Drawing Data Manager and drag and drop it. Now remember, back is at the top, and right now we're talking about within the zero layer. There are all these objects on the zero layer. I'm not talking about moving the zero layer itself right now. I'm talking about these objects on the zero layer, moving them forward or backwards by simply dragging and dropping. So I'm moving this one forward because I drag it down. If I drag something up, I'm moving it back. All right, so up is backwards, down is forwards. Okay, let's take a look at the changes in X references. And I've got a couple X references in here. I want to first take us to the message view, because what I did when I brought in one of these X references, I referenced it to other stuff. Now it's not correct what I did, but I want to show you that you've got a report here of how that referencing occurred. So I've referenced one of these X references to some existing survey data. All right, so I've got a report of what was done there. Now that X reference that I've referenced, that's this one that's appearing here cockeyed. So as I hover over this, you can see this is an XREF to that specific DWG file. Now, in addition, if I go to the Drawing Data Manager, I can expand X references here, and here is that X reference right here. And if I expand this, I have a lot more information about it, including how that was referenced. So it's been scaled, it's got a rotation angle, and it's been moved by a certain amount, offset X and Y. All right. Also, if a particular X reference cannot be found, and I don't know if I can do this or not, if I can't. If a particular X reference cannot be found at that path, because we're just looking at that path and saying, is that file there? If that file is not there, and if you have turned on display empty blocks and pictures, then that's going to show up just like you're used to probably with the brackets, with the path showing up, stating that, hey, something's missing. That's if display empty blocks and pictures is turned on. Now that's, besides this button here, that's also in the view menu, display missing blocks and pictures, and you can see that that's kind of got a blue highlight behind it, meaning it's turned on. All right, so now the X references will also display that missing path if they aren't there. Now, in addition, I don't have anything to show you on this, but in the Trimble Export or Import, we've expanded support for the records like GPS vectors, ground vectors, stakeout point design, point grid deltas, long feature codes, mean turned angles, lines, horizontal arcs, and rounds, MTA residuals, a lot of improvements to your Trimble imports there. So be aware of that if you're using Trimble, other Trimble software like field software. Okay, the last thing I want to show you, we're going to take a look at the changes to the Traverse PC website and Traverse PC's licensing system. So I'm coming to the Tasks Manager, and let's just scroll down a bit here. So we can see in the license information, this is 2018 Professional, version 18.2.1.7. The user's name is John Smith of John Smith Land Surveying. The licensee, so these are two separate things, is John Smith of John Smith Land Surveying at gmail.com. All right, so you could have multiple users, multiple licenses, multiple users, and the licensee is going to be the administrator of those licenses. So they would all be under John Smith of John Smith Land Surveying, and then he might have Fred, George, Peggy, whoever as various users of those licenses. So these are two separate things. This is an EDD license. This is our new licensing system. It's a single user perpetual license, and this is a serial number. Serial numbers are now optional. So I think you'll see them go away in the future. But anyhow, now I have an option here to manage this license. So if I hit Manage License, it's going to pop up your default web browser, and it's going to bring you out to the License Manager. Now, in order to see this, I need to log in. So you should have already set up your user account. I'll come in, I'll log in, I'll fill in my user information and my password. I'm going to say remember me, and I'll log in. So now that I'm logged in, I am now looking at my license manager. So here's my Professional Edition with my key, as well as my connection key, my TPC connection key. And you notice here it says that my connection expires on December 31st. Each of these is limited to one activation. They're both in use here, and they are in use in Traverse PC. So if I come back now to Traverse PC, if I go into Settings, right here on the Support tab in this window, you're going to see one of one activated. All right, you're going to see a lot of the same information that we saw in the Tasks Manager, but there's more here. So here within the program, I can see when my TPC connection expires. So I've got 83 days left on this TPC connection before I need to go ahead and renew it. Now, as that date gets closer, Traverse PC will start saying, hey, your connection is going to expire in 30 days. I believe this starts at a month out. It's going to, and I believe it's once a week. It'll say, you have 30 days left. Do you want to renew it now? And you'll have a link, and you can say, no, I don't want to do that, whatever. All right. So I think that's once a week. But as it gets closer, it's going to prompt you and say, do you want to renew your connection? So it's just going to make it easier for you to know what's going on with your TPC connection membership. I'm going to go back to the my license manager. Now, one of the things that you'll see is manage sites. If I go into manage sites for this license, I can manage this license. So this is who it is, this is the key, and then there's information about the particular computer that it's installed on, And if I choose to, I can deactivate this. So I could say, okay, I don't want this on my office computer right now. I'm going to be going home and I want to work on it at home for the weekend. So I can click on deactivate site and now hit go back. And what we'll see is that this one is now inactive, even though my program is still up and running. I don't have any problem. I can sit here and run this program, and Traverse PC is not going to check that until I close it and reopen it. So if I were to close this and then restart Traverse PC, it automatically found a valid license, and it knows that I did not activate that license elsewhere. So it says, okay, I can just use that license. So even though I've deactivated it via the license manager here, I've reactivated it very simply. So once you use an activation, it will automatically go ahead and use that and check it to see if there's a license available for you. All right, so it's not difficult. If you deactivate it on your office computer and go activate it on your laptop computer, that's all you need to do. It'll automatically be looking to see if you've done that and is there a license available. Now we can take a look at my purchase. This was one of our free updates for our connection members. So here's the purchase, my keys, and my download links if I need to re-download it anywhere. So I can go out from any computer and download and install this program, but it's only going to be valid on a single computer at a time. But it's very easy for you to move this license between your various computers. You can also, while you're out here, there's this member area menu out here. You can look at upgrades. If you're, let's say you're on premium or personal, you could upgrade your license out here. You can manage your TPC connection membership. All of that stuff is available for you out here. You can even share a single user license between two different users in your office. So I could install this on two computers in my office, and whoever is using the program at the time, that license would be valid on that computer. If the other person tried to use it, it would say, no, sorry, can't do it, until the other person closed out. And that's where there is now an option in our settings. So if you're managing an office that way, you can tell Traverse PC to automatically remove the validation when TPC closes. So you set this up on those two computers and have it automatically remove that validation. And this now actually replaces the old network license. I could install this on 100 computers, set it up to automatically remove the validation when the program closes, and so any user of any of those computers could come into Traverse PC, use it. Nobody else could use Traverse PC while they're using it. They close Traverse PC, it automatically removes that validation and frees it up for another computer. All right. Also, for those of you with network licenses, with our old network licensing system, if a user opened multiple copies of Traverse PC, that used up multiple copies of your network license. That no longer occurs. I could have a dozen copies of Traverse PC open with no problem. It's not going to use up any of those other copies that are in my network license. So It's now very easy to manage your software and all. Let's go back out here to the member area. You've got information about your account, so you can set up your account profile. You've got the license manager. If I click on this, on the words, it takes me to the license manager. There are videos on the stuff I've shown you and more up here. So if you have any questions on how to do anything on this, you can go take a look at these videos. If I click the plus sign next to License Manager, I can get to the policies and all, but the words License Manager bring me to the License Manager itself, or I can get there from my software. I can also expand what's new, take a look at updates and upgrades if I want to. Let's say I'm on 2018 R2. I did not renew my TPC connection. Now 2020 release comes out and I want to update. I could go check updates and upgrades and update right here. I can access my agile releases, member resources, various things that are available to you. Now as a Traverse PC customer, you now have access to things that are not available to someone who's just browsing the Traverse PC website. So I can come in here, the TPC user groups, user forums are now hosted within the Traverse PC website. We're no longer using the LinkedIn user forums. There's also the Learning Center here. Hopefully you're familiar with that by now. It's now broken down. If I go to the Learning Center, what I'm going to see is that the Learning Center itself is available to anyone browsing the Traverse PC website. But each one of these tabs, they don't have a lot of information. This is designed for somebody who's looking at Traverse PC and they want to find out about QuickView. So there's just a little bit of information about QuickView. But each one of these tabs, you'll see you can access the QuickView Learning Guide. You can also right here in Customer area access the QuickView Learning Center. So there is a Learning Center dedicated to the QuickView. So here you're going to have all of the resources about the QuickView itself. And in various sections that you can expand to access the different portions of it. So our Learning Center has been broken down into more bite-sized pieces, but in order to access this area, if I were to go back, let's go back to the Learning Center, and I'm going to go ahead and log out of my account. All right, so I've logged out of my account. I'm no longer logged in. If I now go to the Learning Center, I can't get into the Learning Center. I have to log in to access the Learning Center. So that's, I apologize. The Learning Center itself is, you have to be a member at least to access it. And in order to access the various sections of the learning guides, you have to actually be a customer. So you could become a member without being a customer, in which case you can access the Learning Center, just not all of the subsections. So lots of changes on the Traverse PC website, including our new logo. If you haven't seen that yet, we do have a brand new Traverse PC logo, just bringing us up to date. The company itself is the same company, same software, same people, no changes, just a new look. Just trying to update ourselves. Notice there is a nod to the old tree logo. So for those of you that miss it, I know we've had some comments, I missed the tree. Well, so do we. We were emotionally attached to it, but there's a nod to it in the new logo. So that's about it for TPC Desktop 2018 Release 2. Thank you for joining me and have a great day.